Story 1. When my friend and I were 17, we used to work in a Pizza Hut together. We were closing up one weekend, so it was about 11 p.m. by the time we shut down and were ready to lock up. When we walked out to her car, there was an old lady sitting in her front passenger seat. My friend opened the driver door and asked the old lady before getting in, "Can I help you?" The old lady said, "I just need a ride home." So we tell her that we just have to go back inside and call our moms to tell her we'll be late. We go back inside the store and lock the door and call the police. Within 10 minutes, the police are there arresting her. Turns out it was actually a 47-year-old man dressed up as an old lady. They found drugs and a knife on his body. Story 2. When I was around 13, 14, I was home alone, upstairs, when I heard somebody busting open the kitchen door yelling, "Fire! Fire! Get out!" I didn't smell anything, nor did I think that that could ignite a fire. I had ordered takeout and all the things that could set a fire were off. So I decided not to get out and called 911 explaining everything. The police came and found muddy footprints in the kitchen along with the kitchen door busted. Story 3. I was 17 and had just gotten my license. Back in high school, my friends and I had made it a mission to find abandoned houses to throw parties in. We had a few good candidates, but the motherlode was this house I would pass on my home from work. It was an undeveloped shell of a huge home with a large property in the back. I had told one of my friends about it, and one day before we went to see a movie, I took him to the house. It was about dusk in summer, so I had my headlights on. I pulled into the front of the house, and we were there for like 10 seconds tops before we pulled back to go to the main road. A minute later, this big truck pulls up behind us with its high beams on and riding our ass. My friend and I took note of it, but paid it no mind as we headed back to the main road. At the light, I turned right, but the truck cut through the gas station at the corner and blocked us off. Out of the truck comes this big hulk of a man, and my friend and I are shitting our pants. He raps on the window, and I roll it down. Now, the really freaky part is that this is a busy road, and now there was no one in sight. He asks us what we were doing at the house, and I quickly lied and said we were making a U-turn. He stares at us for a few seconds, smiles, and sends us on our way. To this day, the house remains unfinished, and I'm convinced it's a drug operation of some sort. Story 5. When I was in the early years of secondary school, probably 12, 14-ish, my mom asked me to take a bag of sugar over to my elderly neighbor's house, as she'd lent us some sugar the previous weekend. Being a bit bratty, I didn't feel like talking to anyone, so I took it anyway. Stood at my neighbor's front door, timber frame, frosted glass panel in the middle, and knocked. Saw her walking down the hallway to the door and decided that I really didn't feel like chatting. So rude of me, but anyway. So I put the bag of sugar on the doorstep and legged it back to my house. Obviously didn't say anything to my mom about leaving without talking to the neighbor. 3 days later, my neighbor pops around to our house and asks if we noticed anything strange around her house in the last couple of days. Naturally, my mom says, "Oh, honeybee went and dropped the sugar to you. I thought you'd have spoken then." So I was caught out and had to explain that I had rudely dropped the sugar and essentially ding-ding, that is ding-dong, ditched her. Neighbor goes on to explain that 3 days ago, her alarm was triggered and her house was robbed. She had been interstate and forgot to let us know. It wasn't her walking down the hallway to the front door, but the people burglaring her home. Sometimes your intuition speaks to you in weird ways, but that day I just did not want to talk to anyone, and I still think about how lucky I am that I bailed when I saw that figure walking down the hallway. Who knows what could have happened?